I'm going to tell you 7 things you probably don't know about the BYD Atto 3. It's been on sale in Australia for 3 years now, and it's gone through several versions, with a new version rumored to come in 2026. However, today I'm going to look at the BYD Atto 3 Essential, which is new this year. It's a cheaper version with slightly less features than the premium version, but it costs $5,000 less. So is it worth purchasing? I'll let you know all the details. The first thing you need to know is what's changed since the first launch of the BYD Atto 3 in Australia. So a lot of external things have changed. The build your dreams sort of cringy badging on the back, that's gone. The silver sort of fishtail pattern on the D-pillars at the back is also gone. The red and green external paint options, they're gone as well. But in its place, there's a few extra things instead, which the original version didn't have.
Please contribute. It really helps my independent, honest journalism for you.
There's wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. This Essential version has the same 12 and a bit inch screen, perfectly functional. The premium version has a 15.6 inch screen. It still rotates, but I think that's a pretty useless gimmick, as it doesn't work well with sunglasses and some apps. I think BYD has realized that now as well, so future models won't have a rotating central screen. It'll be just like this. The second thing you need to know about this BYD Essential Atto 3 is that this version does not have a sunroof. It has a solid roof. Personally, I don't think that's a problem, especially if you live in a hot part of Australia. Most of Australia gets pretty hot. It's the middle of summer today. It's almost 40 degrees. This car has a 345 kilometer WLTP range versus a 420 kilometer range for the premium. It's got a 70 kilowatt DC fast charging rate versus 88 for the premium. Neither of those are particularly impressive, but this car is not really meant for long distance road tripping. If it is going to be used for that, be prepared for long stops, which if you have small children, you're probably making long stops anyway, because they'll want to stretch and play and complain that they don't want to sit in the car seat too long. Now, the Essential doesn't have a powered tailgate, but as you can see, it opens really easily when you pull up the lever at the button at the bottom to open the tailgate. So I don't really see any problem in that. There's no wireless phone charging in this. That's fine. You can use a cable, you'll survive. There's no roof rails. That's important if you want to carry things on top, like a kayak perhaps. Note that anything carried on top, like a roof pod, will reduce the range substantially. And the Essential also doesn't have heated seats. Nice to have, but is it worth $5,000 more money? To start the BYD Atto 3, you press the brake and press the start button. It's rumored that in the new version of the Atto 3 coming in 2026, there will be a start-stop shifter sort of stalk somewhere around here instead of down here. We'll have to wait and see what happens. The third thing you need to know about the BYD Atto 3 is something BYD probably doesn't want to talk about that much, because they want me to talk about this new version of the car. Well, I want to let you know there's thousands of second-hand Atto 3 first generation cars out there, and they're a lot cheaper than a bit over 40 grand, which is what this costs. So if you're happy to have a slightly older, slightly worn car, but that costs potentially maybe $15,000, $20,000 less than this, that could be a really good value city runabout second car, or even your main car, just for driving around if that's what your budget stretches to. The fourth thing you need to know is that the BYD Atto 3, in testing across many brands of vehicle-to-grid and vehicle-to-home charger, it has worked, I would say, pretty much the best out of all the electric cars that I've seen testing for and been sent reports tests for as well. So a lot of electric cars sort of work with vehicle to grid and vehicle to home, but they will show strange sort of displays on the screen with the power sort of a bit confused about the direction, but the Atto 3 works brilliantly. I know someone called Mike, see the link in the description, and he's been using the vehicle to grid functionality, vehicle to home in his Atto 3. He's basically, as in his own words, been flogging it. Yeah, have a look at that video to learn what options you have. Maybe you want to buy a secondhand one of these just to flog the battery and use it as a really huge house battery. That's an option. Over 50, depending on the spec, kilowatt hours of battery. And yeah, you could use it as stationary storage if you don't care about the warranty. Now, the fifth thing you need to know about these is the 24 plate onwards Atto 3s work perfectly with all Australian fast chargers and normal chargers out there in the public, in shopping malls, on highways, etc. That cannot be said for the 23 and early 2022 plate Atto 3s. They have a problem with a lot of Tesla superchargers. There's a basic incompatibility. BYD has acknowledged there's an incompatibility, but we're several years after those cars are sold. BYD Australia has said several times that they're working on a fix, but there's no clear communication as yet about a widespread application of that fix at your next service, and whether it'll cost money or whether it'll be free. I'm yet to hear about that. So bear that in mind if you buy a second-hand one, a 22 or 23 plate, and you plan on using it at Tesla superchargers. It's not going to work at most of those. Now, the sixth thing you need to know about this car is I really don't recommend getting this Cosmos black with black interior. Even wearing pants and long sleeve, when I got into this car for the last few days, which have been well over 30, pushing 40 degrees in Sydney, it is so uncomfortable in here. It is burning hot. And don't tell me, oh, you can just blast the air conditioner. That only makes difference to the air. The actual seats still feel really hot. Like, yeah, don't get Cosmos black. I got this as a random allocation as a media car, so I can't complain. I don't have to live with it, but I wouldn't want to have to live with a car that's black through and through. Unless you live in like South Tasmania and you have hardly very many hot days at all. Yeah, I don't know. Stick with the lighter colors, and I think you will be a lot more comfortable sitting down in this on a hot day. Now, the seventh thing you need to know about the BYD Atto 3 is, yes, it is relatively well trusted because it's been in the market in Australia for quite a few years. However, there are a lot of competitors out there which are similarly priced now, and they're more modern than this car. So while the Atto 3 is still holding its own, the Geely EX5 has sold slightly more than this car this year because it feels more luxe and premium inside at a similar price and a similar sort of driving range. And don't forget about the MGS5. Look, that hasn't sold that well so far in Australia because MG does value for money cars well, but I don't think they really, I think they've missed the boat on adding more premium features in their car. MGS5 is the most fun to drive as a dynamic handling car, as a rear wheel drive, than this Atto 3 or the Geely EX5. But honestly, I reckon 2/3 or more of the people out there don't care about dynamic driving. They just want soft, comfortable suspension, and they don't particularly care about handling all that much. So MG, I think you need to zhuzh up your MGS5. As nice as it is, as fun as it is to drive, as nice as the safety custom MG Pilot system is, I think a lot of prospective buyers are just going to see the fancier features in this and the Geely EX5 and go for that instead. Now, there's also a wild card. I haven't driven it yet, but it was just released a few days ago, the GAC Ion V. Now, it's a completely new brand in Australia. It's got a lot of pedigree in China as a joint venture partner with Toyota. So clearly Toyota trusts them. But in Australia, it's completely new dealers network. So we'll have to see how it goes. But the GAC Ion V is priced very similarly to this, very similarly to the Geely EX5 and the MGS5, but it has slightly over 500 kilometers of range. So if range is important to you, and also the GAC Aeon V, way faster DC charging and faster AC charging than this and all of its competitors of a similar size. So it could be a really interesting car to watch out in 2026. I'm looking forward to borrowing it. Unfortunately, they don't have a long-term loan, so I can't borrow it for a road trip yet, but hopefully in next year there'll be longer loans available. What do you think of the BYD Atto 3? Let me know in the comments to let you know what the Atto 3 is actually like to drive. Okay, I really like that it has lots of controls here, as well as a modern screen. Very nice. It's good to have a driver information display here as well. And while this screen isn't as big as the Atto 3 Premium screen, it's still perfectly serviceable. Rear vision is not brilliant, but quite adequate, I reckon. A lot of new cars have a tiny sliver of a rear vision available. This car is much better, and very nicely, right from the beginning, even in late 2022, BYD has shown that it really cares about providing all of its cars at all price points with a super duper good quality 360 camera. Very handy for parking, getting around tight laneways, or any other places. If you've been parked in by a giant Ford Ranger and you need to get around it, then this car makes it a lot easier than some others. I'm looking at you, more traditional manufacturers who often only include a reversing camera in your cars unless people buy the top spec. BYD do not do that. You get a nice 360 camera with all the specifications of the car. I mentioned controls earlier. Besides the ones down here, there's also a good selection of controls on the steering wheel. I'm a big fan of that. I don't want to have to talk to the car a lot. I will if I need to, but it's good to have things like cruise control settings, distance between the car in front of me, volume, mute, a button to do voice commands. Navigate to 20 Smidmore Street, Marrickville.
Navigating to 20 Smidmore Street. Continue on Wardell Road for 1.5 kilometers.
If you like listening to traditional radio in your car, the BYD Atto 3 is one of the few cars out there that have AM.
Thanks for the texts who are coming in. Lovely Dawn from...
And FM. And digital radio, as well as obviously being able to pair to your phone via Bluetooth or playing through music and other streaming apps on Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Very handy. Not all cars have AM radio anymore. Is the Atto 3 comfortable to sit in and drive? Yes. Like most Chinese cars, it's designed for comfort, not for dynamic driving. The seats are comfortable, the suspension is a bit more soft, again, like most Chinese cars, so it'll easily soak up the rough roads, whether you're in the inner west of Sydney or on a potholed rural road. It might be a little bit bouncy going over things like speed bumps, but otherwise, yeah, very similar to most Chinese cars. It's comfortable and soft suspension, not sporty. Something people like to know, where are the stalks? Well, the signaling one is on this side, on the right. Not everyone likes stalks on the right, but that's just how it goes with the Atto 3. Some people prefer it that way. Depends what they're used to. Now, if you need to charge this car, the charge port is in the front right-hand corner. So on a lot of public fast chargers where you are perpendicular to the charger, that means you're going to be driving straight in, nose first, as close as you can to the charger, and then pulling the cable and plugging it in there. Personally, I prefer charge ports at the rear left-hand side so I can reverse into a perpendicular fast charger and be able to see clearly when I go out, but certainly front right corner is probably the second best option. Much better than, say, the back right hand corner. That can be somewhat tricky and mean you have to park a bit on an angle to use a lot of chargers. However, because the charging port is on the right hand side at the front, it does mean that if you're using pole chargers or have a council charging permit to run your cable over the sidewalk with a cable cover like I do in Inner West Council in Sydney, then you'll need a longer cable and it will need to snake around under the car and plug in, or you'll need to put some kind of cloth or some kind of protection on the paint job of the hood so you can run the cable over the top and into the charge port instead. Not ideal. Yeah, so if you do need to charge your car parallel parked a lot, try and get an electric car with a charge port on the left hand side of the car. One thing that BYD has done very well since the beginning of their appearance in Australia is having a good infotainment system. Very easy to use, based on Android underneath. Something that all BYD electric cars have is an 8 amp standard 3-pin house socket charging cable under the boot floor. Go and look for that. And a vehicle to load adapter, which you can use, for example, while having a picnic. You could use it to power camping lights or an induction cooktop. Charge some other devices like a laptop if you're out in the field working. Very handy. However, one thing that BYD Atto 3s, none of them have, is one pedal driving. You're going to have to use the physical brake to stop. Taking your foot off the accelerator will slow the car down, but not to a complete stop. Unlike some other cars like my MG4, where I can just drive 99% of the time with one pedal, accelerate, take my foot off to brake, and the only time I really use the brake is for 3-point turns and sort of emergency braking if I see something very unexpected come out of nowhere. So bear that in mind.
Thanks for liking, subscribing, and sharing my videos. It really helps me make more videos like this for you. And have a look at the suggested videos up above. I'm pretty sure you'll like those as well. Thanks, and see you later.